impressive, eh? Hey Clive, good morning. I do have a little bit of problems with the heart rate belt because my girlfriend is also riding and we're both at the same heart rate belt. But it seems okay. Let's hope I don't get kicked out. I'll turn the music down right away. Is it better like this with the music a little bit more down? Jort, with the Kiss racing series, heart rate belt is always obliged to make sure there's no cheating going on. That's why. Good morning. Yes, Clive, very good result. We had Arnaud de Lee. He's I think 21 years old, 21 or 22. Second year pro, first time participating in Omloop het Nieuwsblad. Straight away, he has a podium. Yeah, that's quite impressive. I was very disappointed with my own result. But yeah, the most important is that we have a good result with the team. If you saw Arnaud riding, we think, of course, there was more possible. But anyways, we're very, very pleased with the second place. Is Tim Coppens also in the chat? Yeah, indeed. I would say the key moment of the race is the Molenberg. Always a key moment. And Arnaud had bad luck. Like less than 10k before the Molenberg, he crashed. He had Frederik Frison and Brent van Moer bringing him back. In an almost impossible moment, but they succeeded. And the sprint on top of the Molenberg, Arnaud was in. So that was very impressive. But again, I didn't see the images, but I heard. Again, he crashed and got on his bike in the same split second. We've seen him doing that before last year in a final of a race in Belgium. I should have done a lot of things different yesterday, but the team had a good result, so the team didn't have to really do a lot of different things. We really saved myself for the real final, but I couldn't pull it off at the real final. But we just had Arnaud doing what I should have done, going with the best riders on the Muur. And yes, right, I was too far back. And I had to get a foot on the ground. Just like a big part of that first bunch. On the steepest part of the Muur, it's a challenge to just try to walk it on cycling shoes. It was very challenging. And then I think when this crash would not have happened, we would have gone to a big bunch sprint, or a bunch sprint with 50 riders. And then Arnaud would surely have won it. But again, he can do it in different ways. He's more than just a sprinter. Hey team, I also have my girlfriend next to me in the ride, but she's not on camera and not with the mic. Walking the Muur is a little bit like they did in the war when the gears were not adapted. It was also quite a big surprise. It was not raining at all anymore. The cobbles were still wet, but I don't think anybody expected a crash to happen on the Muur. But maybe the guy that crashed did a gear change in the wrong moment, something like that. Yeah, was pity for me, but that's racing and makes racing exciting. You don't see that happening in like in a marathon run. There are not so much surprises. I was very pleased with the classified. So that's also with classified. You won't lose your chain and you can change at any moment in the front ring. That's maybe one of the reasons why the guy crashed. Because he wanted to change the front ring. And he lost the chain on the steepest part. And then he crashed. I don't know. Those things don't ever happen with a classified. And it also looks really good to have this massive chainring. Ivan, like 30mm tires. I use 30mm in the back, 28 in front, and that's really, you know, I'm surely not the only one. I would say most riders are on 28, but a lot of riders use 30mm also, and yeah, that's really, the rolling resistance is very good. We use 28 in front because it's more aerodynamic to have a narrower tire in front, and the aero overrules the rolling resistance, but the rear wheel doesn't really matter that much. Also, there's more weight on the rear wheel, so aero rolling resistance becomes more important. And I'm running on the 30mm in the rear, in the back, 4.0 bar, in the front 4.2. I don't know how to say it in PSI, but 4.0 in the back, 4.2 in the front. So that's may sound strange, but it is accordingly to the width of your tire. The pressure has to be adapted. Like a car tire, if you would inflate a car tire to 5 bars, it will explode. A bit. Anyways, when it's in a hectical situation, whatever happens, we change bikes. That's always quicker because the mechanic can run to you or even ride to you using your bike, and you change on the bike that's all set, a bike that you have ridden before. That's always a safest option. And when it's very early in the race, you would always change the front wheel, and the rear wheel, which is classified, is even more easy than with a normal rear wheel, because there's like you know, with a normal rear wheel we need an Allen key to get the wheel out, and with a classified you can just unscrew it already yourself. My next race is on Tuesday. It's Saman, cobalt race, brutal race. Good day to find a good morale again and really get myself into that race. Take live. So 4.0 in the back, 4.2 in the front. That's what I use. 60 psi. Yeah, indeed. I remember in time trials with 25mm, I was running 75 psi. PSI is a bit more precise, or I would say you have more smaller steps. That's why in the time trial we talked in PSIs. Wolf, for sure, Arnaud is by far the most talented rider I've been in the team with. I have to say I've not been in the team with Remco or Pogačar, but anyways, he's a different kind of rider, but extremely talented. Hey Damien, in a way I felt very good in the race, but I had a feeling I raced a bit too conservative, saving myself for the final, and I didn't really have the feeling that I came into the race at some moment. So is my condition where I wanted to be. I wanted to win Omloop het Nieuwsblad, so no, I'm not at all satisfied. But I think my condition was good or very good, but it was more like the mental thing of not really being in the race. Hey Clive, we don't have hookless rims. I don't have the feeling that it's really already in cycling hookless rims. It's more still in mountain biking, and they are always a bit ahead. So sure, hookless rims will find their way into road cycling. I think it's mainly important to have a better shape of your tire, that it's more like nicely rounded and less like a balloon. Hey Bert, if you change the classified wheel, you just need to use the same true axle, and you anyways, like how we do it in professional cycling, you always use the same true axle if you change your wheel. And the true axle is what is connected to your shifter. So if you change the wheel, also you can put a normal wheel in there, but then you cannot shift to the smaller ring. So that would be a small problem, but still is very good way if there's no other option. But also, like yesterday, we have classified wheels in the neutral cars, people next to the road, so there was not really a danger. The top 3 of Kuurne-Bussel-Kuurne, I'm quite convinced that Arnaud will be in there. He's very eager to have a good result. And if you have seen him riding yesterday, I'm quite convinced that it will be very good. Bala, indeed. Team did very, very good. Actually, I would say at all moments, the team was doing perfectly as we wanted it to be. Just on the Molenberg, Berendries and Vossenol was more the moment that I had to come in front. But as I said, I'm really disappointed in my own personal race. And it's good to be disappointed. If you would be satisfied with a race like this, better stop being a pro rider. But in advance we were always covering the moves. Florian Vermeers was in the move with Dylan van Baarle, but he was honest afterwards. He just got ridden off the wheel by Dylan van Baarle, which is not a shame, you know. He clearly was the best rider in the race. And then you would say, yeah, maybe Arnaud needed to be there, or I needed to be with Dylan van Baarle. Still, Florian is going very good. So it would have been the question if we would have been able to follow him. And also in that team, in Jumbo, they have Van Baarle, they have Benoot, they have Tratnik, they have Laporte. So they also have different horses to gamble on. If you are very honest, the different horses they have to gamble on might be all just a little bit higher level than our horses. But we used our horses in the perfect way to cover the moves. And we can only say that Van Baarle was by far the strongest. And my honest conclusion was that I was the only one missing out on the job that I had to do in the important moment. Hey Clive, I have to say I didn't watch the final, but it is a fact. If you do a solo breakaway, the motorbikes will always be in your advance. It's just a fact like that. We all know that. It already changed a lot. Let's say 20 years ago, if you look at Milan San Remo, on the Poggio, the motorbikes were part of the peloton. It's already way different, but always, even if you're 20 meters behind a motorbike, you will experience the draft. Wolf, I think it's quite clear that in any sprint classic that we get Arnaud to the line, sprinting for victory, that we will be very likely very successful. We would say Christophe Laporte is a very good sprinter in classics, but if you've seen, his podium spot of Laporte was just all thanks to Arnaud, because he just tried to hold his wheel and succeeded somewhat in that. But there was not really a chance that he would beat Arnaud. I would think if you're doing like something like Sporza Wheeler Manager, something like that. I don't know how it works, I'm not playing it myself. If you can still put Arnaud in your team, better do it. He won't be far off. For sure he will take points. Was the least stronger than Van Baarle? If they would be sprinting against each other, I think Van Baarle would not even be in the same second. If they would be riding the muur next to each other, Arnaud would drop Van Baarle. But Van Baarle, his strength is, he's one of the biggest diesels in the peloton. So he goes early, and they will not, if you see how close they were on the muur, but still he holds the power and they don't come back. That's very, very impressive. And he knows that's how he has to win races. He did it before in Dwars door Vlaanderen and Paris-Roubaix last year. So it's very hard to compare those guys. But Van Baarle won the race. That's what we can say. We have Grand Prix de Samaine coming up Tuesday, and that's a good race for open racing, early attacking. It's not a World Tour race, and I want to win a World Tour race in the spring. That's my objective. But I won't lie, I would be very happy if I would be winning in Samaine or even close, something close. But last year I was very good in dwars door Vlaanderen. And also this year, that's an important race for me. Hey Tom, actually, we thought there were very little crashes this year compared to other years. Omloop is always very nervous. So we thought there were not too much crashes. And we think the reason was because Lotto Jumbo or Jumbo Visma opened the race very early. They started putting the hammer down very early in the race. So there was less nervosity for positioning. And we think that's the reason why, in our opinion, there were not as many crashes. Most likely, I won't ride the Tour de France. At least it's not in the plan to ride the Tour de France. But we will see. Tour de France is still very far from now, and anything can happen. In cycling, your program is always a little bit unsure. So we'll see how things are going now. En Rob, zeker jongen, ik mis je zeker. Mis je mijl? Hoe is de sfeer daar bij Jeff? Dragen ze mooie schoenen? Yeah, Alex, indeed. Van Baarle played his cards perfectly. And if he wouldn't survive his long breakaway, quite sure Ties Benoot would have been ready to do a nice attack. The main objective for those guys was for sure do not sprint against Arnaud Delis. I don't do gym work because I think it takes too much energy. It is proven to be performance enhancing, but there are a lot of things you can add to your training schedule that will make you stronger. But it's a total picture. You need to do mainly good bike workouts, and I had a feeling the gym took too much of my energy and I lost too much quality in my bike workouts. So that's why I now do a lot of core stability because it's easy. I can do it at home. It doesn't really have as much impact on your muscles as power training. And that's what I do often. Most likely I won't ride Milan-San Remo. It's not in my schedule. It's a very easy combination to do San Remo and Paris-Nice, or Paris-Nice and San Remo, better said. Because the finish of Paris-Nice is in Nice, of course, and that's very close to San Remo, so it's easy to go there for a few days, recon the final climbs that are maybe even more important to position well than in a Flanders race. And I also won't be doing Paris-Nice or Tirreno. I do small one-day races in Belgium, leading up to the bigger classics. The UNOX guys, they are good for the Pro Conti team, and still Christoph is good. He's surely not, riding his last years without motivation. He's motivated, he's riding well. But they miss a little bit the strength in the width of the team. But it's a Pro Conti team. They're doing very well, and I think quite soon they will develop to a World Tour team. But I maybe think it's even obliged, if you want to be a World Tour, that you have riders of different nationalities. They only have Danish and Norwegian riders. Hey Alex, indeed. The Poggio downhill with a 62 will be very interesting. Especially this last stretch without corners anymore, where Jasper Stuyven got away 2021. But for the geeks here, yesterday I was riding 62, which seems like massive gear, but I have the ratio with the classified of just under 70%, but the smaller ring is just, I think, 69 or 68.8% of my bigger ring, so that's like 43. And then in the back, my biggest sprocket was a 31. And last year, in all the classics except for Flanders, I was riding a 44 inner chainring with a 30 in the back. So people think that I'm riding a massive gear, but actually the gear I ride is way more easy than what I have been riding last year. And my bigger gear, which is also interesting, is actually smaller than what I've been using last year. Last year I was riding 58 big chainring with an 11 sprocket in the back, and now I'm riding a 62 with a 12 sprocket in the back. And a 62-12 is about the same as 57-11, but it's way more efficient, less chain friction. I didn't notice that Christoph was using a TT helmet. And also, was it a real TT helmet? Or was it an Aero helmet? A prototype? Anyways, I thought about it myself. But it will be only, I think it would be only helping you if you do a long breakaway, like in a Grand Tour. And the problem would be if you put on a time trial helmet in a long breakaway, I'm quite sure the day after it will be banned. So you really have to pick your day. I've been thinking about it, but if you start with a time trial helmet, everybody knows you want to be in the breakaway. So it will make your life a little bit more complicated. Hey Tom, in the classics, it's all about power. Anyways, if you do a lot of training, you will be skinny. If training a lot, you won't. If you're somehow still go very anabolic, which means that you intake more calories than you burn calories, if you would succeed in that, maybe you would gain 2% of body fat, which means for a rider like me, that's 1.4 kilograms. 1.4 kilograms, if you're pushing 10 watts per kilogram, is quite easy. 14 watts. For sure you don't want to push that 14 watts extra. But it's way more important to have the power in those short punches than to be, to be too skinny and missing the power. If you're very skinny, you will most likely, if you're over the limit, lose your punch. But if you want to do like very long climbs, you don't really need that punch as much. And then, the watts that you have to push extra there, if you gain 1.4, like 2% of body fat, and you're riding at 6 watts per kilogram, you're looking at 9 watts extra. But when this is in a climb of 45 minutes, you're burning significantly more calories, more carbs that you would need to use later on. If it's a 1 minute effort that you have to produce 15 watts more, it's only like marginal the calories that you burn. And if you have this little bit of extra punch over the top, you'll be straight away in the wheel, and this will help you way more than this small gain of being very skinny. But if you look at Dylan van Baarle, I've rarely seen a rider that skinny. He was very, very skinny. About the numbers of watts that you save with bigger chain rings. Unfortunately, I have to tell you it's marginal. It is about, in best scenarios, when you produce big watts, it's just under 4 watts that you save. And that's not a lot. but it can make the difference. And you save watts at all times, at all gears. You are saving watts. So in the end of the race, again, this adds up to a lot of kilojoules. And maybe that's this. I calculated it once for Milan-San Remo. You would save about the calories that are held in a 30 grams of carbs gel. Is that a lot on a 7-hour race? No. But anyways, if you want to perform well, you're fueling to the max the whole race, and you cannot take this extra gel. Just the gut cannot handle it. So if you're just missing out on the split, on the Poggio, it might be because you had a little bit too little sugar, and this one extra gel that you saved with bigger chain rings can make the difference. But if you go out on a Sunday ride and you had 5 beers the night before, the advantage of only drinking 2 beers will be way bigger than the big chain rings. That is always a question. Do solo attacks succeed without the motorbikes? As said before, motorbikes will always be part of the race. And I think you're happy about it, because otherwise you won't enjoy racing that much. Watch it on television. But it is part of the race, and also there are motorbikes in front of the peloton and in the chasing groups. But not as much as in front of Dylan van Baarle. That's true, but everybody knows if you want to have the biggest draft of motorbikes, you have to attack. Yeah, indeed. In Kuurne, Brussel, Kuurne, they don't go to Kuurne, Brussel anymore. It's more historically. The good thing is, because they only go direction Brussels, they do a lot of hills. In the Flanders hills, very close to my house, where I can go and watch later on the day. It will be nice. Peter, good one. That's also always in a race. We don't really mind to race in the rain, but it's more like what's coming in advance. The 3 hours beforehand, that we're taking it easy, saving ourselves. You don't want to get cold there, but then again you want to be ready for any kind of move. But then it's really important what you do with your clothing. What I want to do is I always have like a base layer that's cut open at the back, because in the final I never want a base layer, and I can easily take the base layer like this, put it off, and then on top you want to have some layers But again, not too much, because if you have too much clothing, it restricts your breathing. And you also want to be aero, because if you're full of layers and the race starts, the watch you use with a lot of layers is again way much more loss than you can win with bigger chain rings. I would say the biggest advantage of classified is shifting, that you can shift on the full load at any time, and you can just not lose your front chain because you have a 1x chain ring set up with a chain catcher, and this is a very big advantage. Like if I see yesterday, I'm shifting all the time, even if I do an easy cobble section like the Paddestraat, and I'm saving my legs halfway the peloton. Sometimes there's a small rise and I just shift to my inner chain ring to spin up the legs easily of that small drag. And if you have a double chain ring, you will never do that. But because even without shifting, the guys with the double chain rings, they lose the chain on the cobblestones every now and then. 99% of the time it doesn't matter, but at certain moments this can be decisive in the race. Why do they lose the chain? Because the teeth of the front chain ring, they are not at all as high as what I have, because the chain needs to be able to get off and on the chain rings. And because of this, it's way more easy for the chain to fall off. And at some moment it just has to fall off, because you want to change the chain ring. You want to change your gear in front. So actually the chain ring is developed to have the chain falling off. And my chain ring, no, I cannot get the chain off, only if I open it with a quick link. Hey Wolf, why do I ride the smaller races? I have done years with only big races. Then I did 2 Grand Tours, I did Tirreno, I did Dauphiné, I did Benelux, I did all the bigger races. But this was in my time trial days that I was almost sure that if I started a time trial, I would take a lot of points, I will get a good result. But now I feel like I have way more joy if I do a smaller race. And for a team like Auto Destiny, those small races are in Belgium and also broadcasted live on Belgium national television. So also these races are very important for the team. So it's a win-win situation. I'm happy and the team is happy. Doesn't mean that I want to big races. I just have the feeling, I know when I'm in a very good shape, I can win a World Tour race on a parcours that suits me. Like Nieuwsblad or Dwars door Vlaanderen, those races. But I'm quite convinced that it's very hard for me to win in Tirreno Adriatico. Still it's possible, but even then there's only a small chance, because I will have to get in a breakaway that survives to the finish, and that doesn't always happen. And then you did 1 week of racing, you are very, very tired, and maybe there was not even a chance the ride for victory. If the team wants me to go there, because we have somebody going for GC, or VFK or Arnaud sprinting, then it is my job to do the max for the team. But the team wants me to ride my own races, that I can go and score points myself. And that's something I like also. So I'm happy with this win-win situation. Hey Jonas, we'll see about the Vermark race. Some years ago with the lockdown, it was a super good moment because everybody was eager to race again. But now the timing is a little bit worse. Yes, Arthur. The whole season I will be riding classified. Hey Robin. I would say we can be pretty satisfied with a result like second in Omloop with Nieuwsblad. Of course, we want to win, but second is just also impressive. Hey, voilà, we are using Shimano power meters. Just like a lot of teams, I won't say they are the best, but they are very light. They just work good. They do what they have to do. Which is a good option. I think the main thing the Jumbo guys do differently is they do have better riders because they do have a bit bigger budget and they do a very good preparation, and this might end up with better results, which is quite logical. We also did a long altitude camp, longer than what the Jumbo guys did. But in general, they have, I would say, if you see the salary, total salary of the Jumbo guys, yesterday in the Nieuwsblad, and you compare it with the total salary of the Lotto guys, I'm quite convinced that we ride at 25% of their budget and we get second and they win. Also they have third. But if you look at it that way, we don't do it that bad. As I'm on the virtual inner chainring, is depending on the chainring you put on. It's like 69% of your big chainring. So for me, that's like a 43. Hey, Michael. As I was not really into the race. Didn't do a good race myself yesterday. It's hard to give you some numbers because, you know, if you're not really in the race, the numbers are not at all high. Also because I was quite disappointed I didn't really look into my numbers I just saw, I had about 300 watts average for an hour somewhere in the race. Probably that's normalized power of 380 for that 1 hour. That's not at all exceptional in the Flanders race. But no real spectacular numbers from me yesterday. Yeah, like I think that the base they have in the team is just a little bit higher than what we have at the moment. But as mentioned also before, if you see Florian Vermeers, Brent van Moer, also Frederik Frison, how they perform compared to last year, our general level is way, way higher. If I ever get beaten on training by friends or teammates, you know, that's something very rare to happen. It might happen that sometimes one of my friends need a morale boost and then I let them pass me just on top of a mountain. But it's a rare thing, you know. Normally they say the Kampenaerts never gives a present. But it does happen that sometimes a friend needs a hand, and then I let him pass me. Hey Emil, this is just a very easy ride, recovery ride from yesterday. Hey Mika, there was like a reaction about more chain friction. And this will only be true if you ride in extremely bad conditions, like Paris-Roubaix 2021. But still then, you will prefer classified over a normal setup, because in these bad conditions it's very likely that you will lose your chain, and you know, you won't do that with classified. When your chain is properly waxed or properly lubricated, it's not at all a big loss. You have a chain line that is not straight. It is a big loss when you have a very small sprocket in the back. This will create way more tension, that the chain is doing this small bend instead of this bigger bend. And also the 39 in front will create way more friction than a big chain ring, because of a simple reason that the chain is bending more than the bigger chain ring. And also, if you would say my elbow is the center of my crank and my fist is the pedal, if you push it and you have a very small chain ring, somewhere over here, you have a massive lever. If a chain ring over here, the lever is way smaller. And for this reason, the tension on the chain will be way lower with this massive chain ring than with this very small chain ring. And again, in the back, you ride on a bigger sprocket, so this lever, people think you need this big lever to accelerate, but it's not at all true. Also because of the small chain tension, shifting performances are way better under any load. Jonas, chain maintenance is very easy, but it's a bit the same like on any bike. The only big advantage is with the maintenance that you don't have a front derailleur which picks up a lot of dirt, so it saves you a lot of time cleaning. You know, you don't have to go at the back of the derailleur with a small sponge. Those things. And because of the fact that you have so little chain friction, the chain, if you combine this with a wax chain, I can say that your chain will last easily 10 times longer than what you're used to. In the end, the chain, if you change your chain regularly, it's not a big cost. But if you think about the fact how quickly your chain is wearing out, there should be a lot of friction. So if you have less wear on your chain, most likely you have less friction. So do I ever ride on the 6211? Good question. I didn't even have an 11. I was riding with a 12 sprocket for the reason I just said. The smaller the sprocket, the more friction you create. So I have this massive chainring that I never have to go on the 11. And then I just have less chain friction. But in some races it will come in handy to have an 11 sprocket. And then I will use it, of course. I had a question about power meter. So Sander, very good question about Shimano power meters. They do have some issues with reading at high torque on the right side. I do have to say, if you're not a very well trained or a professional rider, it won't be a problem. It's only when you're going like over 1200 watts at about 100 cadence, or if you would do 600 watts intervals with a 50 RPM cadence. At this point, there are some problems with the reading at the right side. But you know, training is training. It's not data collecting. It's interesting to collect data, but yeah, if you just do the work, actually even without a power meter, it's okay. But it comes in really cool to compare numbers, and we can say that the really high peak powers are a little bit less good recorded with Shimano. I do think Arnaud will be very close today. Hey Matthew, I think I'm quite of a pioneer in those marginal gains. But of course there are a lot of riders doing the same things, but maybe not a lot of riders that are at my level. And that's maybe why you would think I'm the only one. Quark is most likely more accurate, but it is slightly over-reading. But again, that's not really a problem if you compare your own numbers to your own numbers. But I do know in Jumbo they are very, very pleased with Quark. If you want a very good power meter, my advice would be to ride an SRM. It still is just purely based on the data, in my opinion, the best. There are some UnoX riders also riding classified. Not that much. I'm looking to the central knot of the bike because it's not so easy to change. Main thing is I want it to be low. But I'm quite convinced that it's not really a problem. You have a slightly heavier hub and a lighter bottom bracket because of the fact that you have a classified and no front derailleur. I have to say I never use Zwift workouts, but I do sometimes use races that I specifically choose hills to go all out. My levers are slightly tilted inwards, and that's what everybody does nowadays. Thanks for the ride. Wasn't the big success that we hoped for, and also yesterday was not a big success that I hoped for, and I think that's the main reason why not so much people were here. Anyways, thanks to Kies to organize this ride. And now off to some more racing. Tuesday, next race, Saman. Thanks everybody, and see you soon. My trainer difficulty is 50%. Actually, that's what I think. So trainer difficulty is at 50%. Ciao. Bye bye.